What is up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood web warrior fanatic, and today we'll be ranking all the Justice supports in Marvel Champions. So let's go ahead and get started here with our first support card, 3-cost support called Beat Cop. As an action, exhaust Beat Cop, remove 1 threat from a scheme to here, and then as an action, you can also exhaust and discard Beat Cop to do 1 damage to a minion for each threat on here. So Beat Cop, as you guys may or may not know, is my favorite Justice card. I think it's very, very powerful. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the A tier here. So a very, very good card. The only thing that holds this card back is that it is a little bit expensive being a 3-cost card, but it has 2 effects. So the first thing is that it just stays in play forever because it's a support card. You can exhaust it and move 1 threat from a scheme over to here. So it's just every single turn you can exhaust this card, get 1 threat off of a scheme, and just consistently do that. You can do that in alter ego or hero form. This will bypass stuff like Patrol as well because it's not considered Thor activation. So I love this card to just be able to do that permanently every single turn. Having 3 out will take away 3 threat every single turn, which is invaluable. And it's great for build heroes that have a lot of economy. And the second effect is kind of just gravy on top, right? You Beat Cop must be readied up, right? So for the second effect, you can't just exhaust move a threat and then use the second action here, right? But as another option for another action, you can exhaust the Beat Cop, then discard it, and do 1 damage to a minion for each threat on here. So I've often accumulated like 10 plus threat on Beat Cop, and I just exhaust it to defeat a huge guard minion like the Kree Lieutenant and just knock out its 7 hit points easily. And that is very satisfying, very, very fun, a very, very powerful card with multiple effects. For me, it goes in A tier because it's definitely a card that you want to build around if you can afford the cost of it. But I think it's a very, very powerful effect. And I think it's above just a B tier card because I have a deck where, the Web War Fanatic deck, where I really build around the B Cup. So for cards I think are very powerful and that you can build around, and there's multiple situations where it's good, right? It's not just if you're building around it. If you just include it in a deck, it can still be useful. I think the B Cup easily goes in the A tier. Okay, so next we have the Command Center. This is a 1-cost support, max 1 per player. After an ally thwarts and defeats a side scheme, exhaust Command Center and do 2 damage to an enemy. So Command Center, okay, the response is not an alter ego or hero response. You can use this in either form. And then you need an ally to thwart and defeat a side scheme to do 2 damage to an enemy. So one thing that I do like is that you can do 2 damage to any enemy, and this will bypass stuff like guard, and it will bypass brutality because it's not an attack activation. So the effect is nice, but the condition is a little bit difficult. You need an ally to thwart and defeat side scheme. That's not going to be the most consistent thing, but the times that it can trigger will be pretty nice. It's 1 cost, so it's very, very cheap. I think this card is going to go in the B tier for me. There's enough things that it's got going for it to make it a serviceable card if you have empty spots in your deck, right? So it's a 1-cost support. You just stay in play the whole time. Then any single time that you have an ally thwart and beat a side scheme, it's a pretty good effect that could do 2 damage, and the effect is pretty versatile. It's just this triggering condition is a little bit difficult to get consistently, but considering that you don't need it consistently, you just need it like every now and then, I can definitely see the command center being good. And if you have an empty spot in your deck, I mean, the command center is not more than welcome, but I mean, it can definitely slot in. Okay, next we have the Feud Agent. This is a 1-cost support, and it comes in with 3 backup counters. As a hero interrupt, so you can only use this card in hero form. When a Feud ally would take any amount of consequential damage, exhaust Feud Agent and remove 1 backup counter from it, then prevent 1 of that damage. So it is preventing consequential damage. This card has really, really good synergy with shield cards because the shield allies have really good effects if they stay in play for a long time. So it works particularly well with them. And then what I really like about the Feud Agent is I believe that it's the only 1-cost shield card that has this shield trait here that stays in play. So a lot of the cards in the shield archetype, you want to exhaust other shield cards to get their full effects, like Global Logistics or Homeland Intervention. So Feud Agent is the cheapest version to do that. So I actually really like this card, and I am tempted to put it in the A tier, right? If you're playing shield, you know what? I think I'm being biased here. I really like the card, but I'm gonna put it in the B tier, right? I don't think its effect is powerful enough to put it in the A tier. It's got a lot going for it, right? Just being in play, being a 1-cost support, the cheapest shield support / upgrade that you can get into play and just exhaust it for shield effects, and then preventing consequential damage is good as well. but it's not amazing. It definitely works. I think it's a really good card. I really want to put an A tier, but I think that if I'm playing a Shield deck and I'm running out of deck space, the Feud Agent may not make it in. It's only if I have an empty roster spot that I really want to put the Feud Agent in. I definitely want to put it in, but it's not a top priority if it doesn't make it in. So I'm gonna put the Feud Agent here in the B tier, but definitely first in the B tier and very, very close to the A tier for me. Okay, next we have the Interrogation Room. This is a 1-cost support, max 1 per player. As a response, after you defeat a minion, exhaust the Interrogation Room and then remove 1 threat from a scheme. So this card is a little bit similar to the Command Center, but a little bit different, and in my opinion, far worse. So it's just kind of the conditions, right? So defeating a minion is similar to defeating a side scheme, and for this one, it's after you defeat a minion, and then for this one, it's after an ally thwarts and defeats a side scheme. So definitely, I guess it's easier for you to defeat a minion than it is to have an ally defeat a side scheme. But the removing 1 threat from a scheme is just not that valuable of an effect. Sure, it bypasses stuff like patrol, but it's just 1 threat for this condition here, right? So you have it in play. Sure, it'll be nice whenever it triggers, but for the command center, dealing 2 damage to bypass guard and retaliate, I think it's going to be a little bit more useful. At worst, you can do this at the villain, right? And then for this one, at worst, it's just removing 1 threat from the main scheme, which may not be the most valuable thing at the end of the day. I do think the Interrogation Room is not as good. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the C tier here. There's definitely situations where it can be good if for some reason you are defeating a bunch of minions and you can get 1 threat consistently every single turn. But yeah, I mean, just 1 cost is very cheap, but this effect is just not very valuable. Just pinging off 1 threat, right? It's similar to the B cup where you're just moving 1 threat, but the B cup you can do it every single turn. In the Interrogation Room, I mean, there's no consistency for you to be able to defeat a minion. It has to be you, right? So you can't have an ally defeat it, you can't have another player defeat it. And if you're the Justice player, I mean, it's gonna be a little bit hard for you to defeat the minion. And the more that I think about it, I kind of want to drop the command center here. I mean, ally thwarts and defeats the side scheme because, I mean, the more I look at it, the more similar their effects are. Yeah, I'm gonna actually drop the command center down. I don't know if that's the right call, but I do feel like the command center is a lot better than Interrogation Room. Like if I had to run one or the other, I would definitely put the command center. But I mean, their effects are still so similar. I think I just value the 2 damage for this type of condition more than the 1 threat for this condition. But I mean, they're both situational cards. Definitely not cards that I will regularly use. Okay, next we have the Surveillance Team. So this is an OG card in the core set. And actually, I believe the Interrogation Room is also from the core set as well, but much less memorable. So the Surveillance Team is a 2-cost support. It's a shield trait, so it's very good with the shield archetype. And it comes in with 3 snoop counters. As an action, you can exhaust Surveillance Team and remove 1 snoop counter from it, then remove 1 threat from a scheme. So this, to me, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the B tier here. I'm going to actually put it behind the Feud Agent. So I think it kind of depends how you're playing it. So this is originally a card. It's a shield card, but originally the shield archetype wasn't really developed, so we just use it normally. In the shield archetype, it is a good card, but it's still really a slot in, right? It works particularly well with Monica Chang. And I think Monica Chang is like A tier slash S tier type of. She's an A tier slash S tier type of ally, right? Because she gets in the Surveillance Team, right? If you're using the Surveillance Team by itself without the shield archetype, I think it is like a C tier card. It's just not that good because same effect as the B cop, except when you use it 3 times, it goes away. And then the B cop is just 1 more cost, but you can use this forever. So I mean, the perks that this card has is that it bypasses stuff like patrol and stuff like that because it's not an activation, and you use this in alter ego or hero form because this action is not limited to alter ego or hero form. So that's a perk for the card. But I mean, just 2 costs to do a total of 3 threat only, versus B card can be 3 costs for potentially like 10 plus threat. Yeah, so I do think they're leagues apart. But if you're playing the shield archetype, this card really isn't getting any play, right? I'm not playing this card from my hand. I'm getting it from Monica Chang, right? Monica Chang is the card that's saving this card. She's bringing this card into play, and she places one Snoop counter on every surveillance team. So the one that she brings into play will have 4 counters, which is super duper powerful. So she's kind of the saving grace of this card, and I am going to differentiate them a little bit and not give this card the benefits of all of Monica Chang's power. So if it wasn't for Monica Chang in the Shield archetype, I would put Surveillance Team in the C tier. Because even in the Shield archetype, it's not a card that I'm playing from my hand very often. I'm usually just using it as a resource, unless I got nothing else to play. But definitely the effect can be good, and it can definitely be an A tier card in the Shield archetype. But I mean, it's really dependent on Monica Chang, and I'm usually not playing this card by itself. Okay, and then lastly, we have Vigilante Training. This is a one-cost support, so the Justice version of all the other versions of this card, like Assault Training for Aggression. Max 2 per deck. It comes in with 2 training counters as an alter ego action. Exhaust this card, remove 1 training counter from it. Then choose a Justice event in your discard pile and shuffle it into your deck. So I'm just like the other ones. I'm gonna put this card in the C tier, and I'm actually gonna put it first in the C tier. I do think, I think that this is the easiest one of all the other training cards to access because it's an alter ego action. So Justice has the most accessibility to your alter ego, right? Because you're controlling threat, you're managing it, so you can flip down more times if you're playing the Justice aspect. But I do feel like that Justice doesn't have the best events, right? So for bang for your buck, I would probably say Leadership has the best events and the most versatile events. So the Leadership version of this card, I mean, it's, you know, give or take because this is more access to it because alter ego action and then playing Justice, but just not as strong with the events. So I mean, it's definitely better than the aggression version of this card, the Assault Training, but still, I mean, there's just too many factors, too many variables, right? You have to flip down to use this effect. There's only 2 training counters. When you use it twice, it's gone. You only get a Justice event, right? So you can't get an identity-specific event, and you can't get a Justice upgrade or support or ally. It must be an event. So same as other cards, same reason. I mean, it's just not going to be a very good card, but definitely in the correct situation, you can definitely get some value out of it. Yeah, and that is it. This is my Justice support card tier list, and still not a lot of supports in the Justice aspect, but there's 6 here instead of 5 in protection and aggression, I believe. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you guys agreed or disagree with anything on this list. If you guys think that Beat Cop is the best Justice support card, or if I'm being biased. And if you think Feud Agent belongs in A tier, let me know because I really want to put this card in A tier. I like this card a lot. But yeah, this is my Justice Ally tier list, and I will see you guys in the next one.